Hello. We're moving on from now. This is part two of rendering skills with pencils. Okay, so we've gone from last part, gone from our waxy drawing method, okay, which is, pretty much when you start drawing itself. This is better using a wrist action and really focusing on using the tip of the pencil to render in, but it's not perfect. You can see a lot of liney things going on, as well as a directional stroke that is an arc. Then we moved on to using our elbow as a pivot, okay, to do a nicer blended version. And then we have here much better using our entire arm to create even tone and cross hatching it too. So we rotated the page and we rendered in from multiple directions, which provides us with a nice even tone. You can build up on this a lot more. This is very much like almost a mid-tone, okay? Almost a mid-tone, it's quite light. All right, so let's move on from that. And we're going to go into now gradients. So I'm just going to zoom in to this and refocus. And the pencils that I'm using today are, I'm going to continue using my deep vermilion. I'm going to introduce as well an imperial purple, as well as the ivory black. Okay, ideally we would have a darker vermilion, and then we go to the ivory blacks, but I don't have a darker vermilion color in my 24 pan set, okay? And the purple is going to be the two-tone gradient. Okay, so let's move on to it. Basic gradient. So I'm going to ensure that my vermilion, color is nice and sharp. So that pencil is nice and sharp through here. And I'm going to come across here. And I'm going to use my entire arm now to render in my gradient. So I'm going to lay down an even color across the entire surface. Okay. And I'm going to turn this around now too to lay down the other direction as well. Remember that we want a nice evenness to our tone. Okay. My desk appears to have some glue on it. Alright, so there we have our nice even tone. Now this tone here is much better, but this tone I've just laid a basic one down. I've only gone across it twice. Alright, so now the trick with the gradient is that we're going to come back again and lay down another layer on top of it. Okay, and this is where we start to get lighter as we approach the end, okay? And you can continue doing that, lay down more tone, but this time round, you can go from a 45-degree angle, okay? Lay down some dark tone through the top there, okay? And then you sort of start flicking up from this. So you start getting a gradient occurring, right? Let's go again, add a bit more tone to it. Start to get a little bit lighter. Okay, I've got a bit of dirt on my table again. I have a hot spot there. Alright, so go across here again. Nice and dark through here. Really getting that darkness in at the top and start sort of flicking up from there. Alright, so hopefully you see that. Okay, let's go again. Geez, I have a lot of dirt on the bottom of this on this table. Sorry about that. Okay, so you can see here gradients starting to occur. Okay, you build up the tone. All right. Now, if you want a nice white spot, you obviously come around with the eraser, and you can flick across with the eraser, and you can lighten off bits you don't like. So I'm using a PVC-free eraser. This Faber-Castell one's quite good for erasing real stubborn sort of darker applied pigments. Okay, so that there is a basic gradient. Let's move on to a gradient with shadow. Okay, so I'm going to apply once again. Now I'm just going to sharpen my pencil. Okay, I'm going to apply now a nice even tone to a much better section there, okay? So this could be used for when you're rendering something and there's shadow applied, okay? Sorry about the camera from having the camera shake on you. At the moment, I'm just not worrying about my edges because the whole idea of this particular one is to focus on getting that shadowing happening with the gradient. Okay, so that's a nice even tone through here. All right, I could probably get rid of some more of the direction by putting in one going up and down instead. There we go, nice and even now. All right, so the trick with gradients, with putting a shadow on, is that yes, you could probably press harder, okay, and yes, that's true, right? But at some stage you'll start having to add some black to it, okay? Or you could go across to a darker color of this particular color, okay? It's like a darker version of it. All right, so let's lay down, first of all, our deep vermilion a little bit more to start getting that gradient occurring. All right, so start really laying down that tone, come across here a little bit more. Okay, get a little bit lighter, approach from different angles to get that gradient starting to occur. Okay, and at some point, now I'm just going to change over to a tip to apply a more harder tone to it. So you get to a certain stage where, now I'm getting to be a little bit lighter now as I reach this area here. All right, and let's approach it from another angle again. I can use my wrist now action because I'm drawing in a smaller space, but if you're rendering in a larger space, then I recommend you use your entire arm to lay down the tone. So you can see here a gradient's starting to occur. Might come across here and lighten it off with my eraser. Okay, if I've gone too far on these lighter tones here. Okay, so you can see that's starting to happen there. All right, so at some point, you're going to end up being too waxy, and you don't want that, okay? So, so this is where we introduce the ivory black, and all you do is you go across nice and lightly, just skimming across the surface, okay? And lay down your tone like that. Now, the studio set of Derwents I'm using at the moment, it's not really ideal for this particular method because the studio set doesn't exactly like rendering over top of pigment that's already been laid down. If you want that sort of quality, then you need to use possibly the artist version of this Derwent set. Okay, now Derwent does offer many different types of sets. Okay, all right, so this one is mainly used for showing details because it is a harder lead consistency. Okay, and you want the artist quality one, or you can change over to the Prismacolor pencils, which are much happier at drawing over themselves. Okay, so I'm just going to lay down some more tone here. And you can start seeing the waxiness of this lead. and then you lighten off. Okay, so you can start doing that. All right, so that's all right. Now, let's move on to a two-tone gradient. We start off with our vermilion, and we're going to end up with our Imperial purple color as well. So I'm going to start off with my vermilion. So I'm going to have a gradient that ends up going up to 3/4 of this drawing, okay? So of the rendering. I'm going to apply a nice darker tone here. And remembering that I'm going to apply less force as I get to that 3/4 mark. Now remember that we need to focus at providing a nice even tone. Okay, flicking up at different angles. I have a lot of texture on this table, so unfortunately it's really coming through the drawing. Okay, so that's added a little bit more tone there. Now I'll start going across with my Imperial Purple. I'll do the same thing. I'll start off darker, and then I come up through this colour and end up 3/4, but very lightly, okay? Okay, so I continue doing that, add more tone, range to it, and I end up with a mixture. Okay, so once again, we're starting to see the limits of the Derwent Studio set starting to come through. Okay, so if you want better tonal range, mixing two gradients or more gradients together, I would probably switch to the artist set or the Prismacolor pencils. Remember to flick up and approach it from different angles as you flick as well to get that even tone going through. Okay, and that is how you go about doing a gradient which merges from one color to the other. Okay, you'll also note too that the Imperial laid down easier compared to the vermilion color. Okay, and that is all a part of sometimes pigments are laid down easier than others. Okay, for whatever various reasons. All right, so it's not the binder so much; it's just the difference in what the color compound is. Okay, and that'll be it for this time. Thank you. Bye.